Greetings! Welcome to the 9th Age Fantasy Battles. My name is Jobadiah Christensen, and today I will be discussing the Kingdom of Equitaine LAB preview release with an introductory overview. That's right, you heard it here, probably not first, maybe first. The Kingdom of Equitaine LAB book is now releasing. So, today I'm just here to go over and discuss some of the new things. I'm not going to go through the whole book. There are other people's channels to do that, and I will post their links below so that you can go check them out as the book is released. I do have to mention here with the disclaimer that the names have not been finalized yet, and because this is the initial release of the LAB. Points and names are going to change over the next year or however long it takes to get it right, because the 9th Age team wants to get it right, so they're going to take as long as it takes. So here we go. I'm just going to talk through some of just the initial part of the book, the basic things that are at the front of it, such as the army specific roles. Okay, so army specific rules, we have the blessing. This is different than what the blessing was before. Blessing. Unit profiles in this army book contain an additional characteristic which corresponds to the unit's Aegis saves, so it's shortened AEG. This characteristic is treated as if the unit has the personal protection Aegis written on its profile, where X is the Aegis characteristic value. Not having an AEG value does not prevent a unit from being the target of an Aegis modifier. We'll see that a little bit later. A model from the Kingdom of Equitaine army book with courage, ordeal, or honesty that is fleeing can never use any Aegis save. Okay, that's important to note. Okay, so that's the new improved blessing. Notice, guess what? What's missing? There's nothing you have to do. This blessing is just innate with the model. There's nothing about having to pray at the beginning of the game or not. They just come with the blessing. They come, most of the models will come with some sort of basic Aegis save. So let's move on to personal protections. These are the things that were just mentioned within the blessing model. What was it? Models with courage, honesty, or ordeal that are fleeing can never use any Aegis save. So here are what those actually are. What is courage? A piece of luck given by the lady to courageous knights when faced against all odds. The model gains an Aegis +1, max of 4+, with the following restriction. This effect can only be used against wounds against which the model cannot take any armor saves. Units with more than half their models with courage ignore friendly units consisting entirely of models with ordeal for the purpose of panic tests. Okay, so they just have that disclaimer in there because you could have a character with honesty in a unit of courage, and then I don't want to spoil the rest of the book, so you'll see who has ordeal, who has honesty, and who has courage. But basically that's how this works. This means, okay, so models are going to come with a base Aegis save because of the blessing, which you just saw, and then they're gonna, if they have courage, they have a additional Aegis +1. So that's gonna mean there's gonna be some things in the book with a 5+ Aegis, max of 4+, because there are other modifiers, ways to then increase that further. But this additional Aegis can only be used when you can't take an armor save. So if you have, say, a 3+ armor and a 6+ Aegis, and you get hit with something that's AP 4 or more, you don't get to use your armor save anymore, but then your Aegis goes up to a 5+ instead of a 6+. But if you still make an armor save, if you only hit with AP 3, then you have a 6+ armor and a 6+ Aegis. So that's what courage is. Let's move on to honesty. Honesty is Ordo units, which Ordo is a new description given to types of units in the book, are hardened by prayers and faith when fighting against magic itself. The model gains Aegis +1 against magical attacks, max 4+. So this is because of the faith of the Lady is given to these units, and they're very honest in their faith. And so this can only be used against magical attacks, but you would get this in addition to your armor save. So you have to think about which is better. You probably could take an army that's all courage or all honesty. That's up to you, or you can mix them together. There's a lot of different units in this new book. Alright, and then there's Ordeal. The Lady rewards those serving honesty and courage units on the battlefield. The model with Ordeal gains Aegis +1, max of 5+, with the following condition: its unit must be engaged in the same combat as at least one other friendly unit containing one or more models with courage or honesty. So this is meant to give, I guess if you've been following some of the spoilers on the forums, basically you're going to have courage and honesty units are generally going to be what you think of as the more mounted knight type units, and Ordeal is generally going to be the more foot troops part of the army. So if you have a unit of infantry with Ordeal and you're in the same combat as a unit with honesty or courage, which is generally going to be a knight unit, then your infantry unit gets their Aegis save basically buffed, so they go up to a max of 5+, just to help them survive that combat a little bit better. Because they're serving alongside units that have honesty and courage. So they're emboldened, and the Lady is rewarding them for serving in the same battle as one of the knight units. Alright, those are the personal protections. Let's move on to universal roles, okay? So you have these new things called orisons, and this is kind of goes with the concept of faith and virtue in the army, okay? So you have orisons X. At the start of step 7 of pre-game sequence spell selection, each model with orison adds X orison tokens to its owner's orison token pool. So orisons are a new type of token specific to Kingdom of Equitaine. Additional instances of orison on the same model do not stack unless they are written as orison plus X. Any player's orison token pool could never contain more than 6 orison tokens. Okay, so first step is, depending on your army composition, there's different types of units in the book that have orison either like a 1 or 2 after them. And if you have that unit in your army list, then at the beginning of the game, at step 7, you're going to get a token for each instance of that. So, let's just say hypothetically you have 3 models, each with orison 1. So you're going to get 3 tokens at the beginning of the game. Alright, that's your orison token pool. Now, at the start of any phase or round of combat, how do you use these tokens? At the start of any phase or round of combat is when you use these tokens. 1 or more orison tokens can be removed from your pool. For each removed token, choose 1 friendly non-fling unit with an 8 of any non-fling model with orison. So those very same models which gave you tokens at the beginning of the game are then used to actually use those tokens and basically cast a buff onto friendly units within 8 inches. And you have to be non-fling. Same thing as the blessing. With the blessing, if you're fleeing, you lose your Aegis save. If your model orison is fleeing, you can't use this buff either. The chosen unit gains one of the following effects. Holy Strike, model parts without harnessed gain +1 to hit with their close combat attacks. Pretty nice. Holy Shield, Aegis +1, max 4+. So that's where you could see earlier with the, I believe it's with Courage or with Honesty, you can increase an Aegis save to 4+. This is one way to do it, by using an orison token. And Holy Wrath, Fear. Any model that already has Fear gains Terror instead. Alright, several instances of an effect on the same model are not cumulative, so you can't put Holy Shield twice on the same unit. And a single unit can only be the target of 1 orison per phase, unless specifically stated otherwise. To the best of my knowledge, you can't at this point. They just put that disclaimer in there so that as the game evolves, they're not boxed in a corner, and they could theoretically add an additional Orison ability that maybe it could target. Maybe you could put 2 Orisons on the same unit in the future. Whatever, we'll see. The effects last until the end of the phase. So there you go. These are kind of like, you kind of think of them like a token resource pool, similar to how flammable tokens work for Infernal Dwarves. Some people have also compared them to the way orders work for Empire of Sunstal. But the thing is with orders, these are a lot different from orders, because orders you have to give out at the very beginning of your turn. You don't, and so you have to plan out your whole turn ahead of time. And also, you don't, whatever you build your list for with orders, whether you have 0 orders or, okay, so if you have orders, usually you're going to have at least 1. Sometimes you can build a list that has like 4 or 5 different orders, but you got to issue them all at the beginning of the turn. With tokens, there are ways to fluctuate. Like, you'll start the game, let's say with my previous example, maybe you start the game with 3 tokens. Well, if you use those 3 tokens, there's ways to regenerate and have more than 3. You could save them up and get all the way up to 6, but you can't generate more beyond 6 until you start spending them. So it's kind of another resource pool management that a Kingdom of Equitaine player is going to have to keep track of. This also opens up some opportunities for people to customize and have their own individual tokens that might look different from other Kingdom of Equitaine players, just to add some fluff and flavor to their army on the battlefield. Alright, so that's Orisons. Then we have universal rules. Continuing, we have Sainted. So this is one of a kind. Cannot be taken by the battle standard bearer. Okay, this is some sort of a, it's kind of like an upgrade you put on your characters, or you could put on a character. Model parts without harnessed gain Orison +1. Okay, so if you could take a Sainted, you could make a character that already has Orison 1 and make them Sainted so they get an additional Orison. And Fearless. The model part gains +1 attack, +1 offense, +1 defense. Its discipline set to 9, and its special item allowance is increased by 50 up to a maximum of 200. In addition, the model is always under the effect of the Orison's Holy Strike, Holy Shield, and Holy Wrath. Always under the effect. This does not prevent the model's unit from being the target of an Orison. Okay, so they have that disclaimer in there too. So, you're always under the effect. So this is going to be, it's one of a kind. So you only ever, at this point, you're going to have 1 model in your army, if this is optional too, right? That can be Sainted. Let's go back and look. So always under the effect. So you're going to have +1 to hit. You're going to have Holy Shield, so you're going to have an additional Aegis. So most of the time you're probably going to have a 4 Aegis, but this model part, this character, it might have Courage, might have Honesty, or might not have either. I don't remember. And Holy Wrath, they're going to cause Fear. If the model already has Fear, it gains Terror instead. So, that's cool. That's kind of cool. Okay? But it's just 1. You can have 1 Sainted character. It's one of a kind. There you go. Alrighty. Then we go on to Knight Banneret. This Knight Banneret was kind of spoiled in the spoilers in the lead up to this. But here we go. Let's go through it. Knight Banneret. 0 to 2 per army. The model gains the following rules. The model gains +1 health point up to a maximum of 3. The model may take a single banner enchantment from this army book, for which it is considered to have a special item allowance with no limit. So that means you can only take, the Knight Banneret can only take a banner from the Kingdom of Equitaine book. It cannot take a banner from the Arcane Compendium, but it's not limited. So theoretically, if there is a 100-point banner, the Banneret can take that. There's no size difference. When calculating combat score, the model adds +1 to its side's combat score, so it counts like having another banner. And the model can be chosen as the model that suffers the penalties for refusing a duel. If so, it does not add +1 to its side's combat score. Can be chosen as the model that suffers the penalties. Interesting. Okay. So it adds a little bit of flavor to duels too. Alright, so there you go. It's only 0 to 2 per army, though, yeah, you'll just have to see which units actually get that. It's later in the week. But yeah, that's just a nice little way that you can then basically have 2 banners in a unit without putting a BSB in there. Theoretically, with a BSB, I guess you could have 4 banners in a unit. Because a BSB could take 2 banners. The unit could have a regular standard bearer and then a knight banner on top of that. I believe. I'm trying to remember from when I looked through. I'm pretty sure you can. Alright. Next, universal rules. Ordos Minister. This goes back to the concept of having faith in the army. So what is an Ordos Minister? It's also 0 to 2 per army. The model gains +1 health point up to a maximum of 3 at the start of each friendly magic phase. The model's unit or a model inside the model's unit may raise 1 health point with the following restrictions. No single unit can recover or raise more than 1 health point per player turn from this ability. Champions cannot be raised by Ordos Minister. A unit that recovered or raised health points this way cannot be targeted by Fountain of Youth, which is the Druidism attribute, in the same magic phase. So, this is kind of like having a cleric in your unit, and that way you can recover 1 model, which obviously wouldn't be that effective if you are on foot, if you had a block of 30, but if you have an Ordos Minister that's mounted in a knight unit, you can just raise back a knight every turn automatically. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Alright, but it's also 0 to 2 per army. And Gallantry. During army list creation, the unit gains a Gallantry value that corresponds to the value stated in brackets. Multiple instances of Gallantry in the same unit do not stack. Multiple instances of Gallantry in the same unit do not stack. Okay. The sum of the Gallantry values of all units on the army list is restricted to 1 per 650 army points, rounding fractions up. For example, this means that a 4,500 points army can contain units with a combined Gallantry value of up to 7. Basically, this is just a different way outside of percentages to track or guide list creation. So I think there's something similar in Infernal Dwarves, or at least there was at some point with their, I think their Condemned Titans or something went towards it. Anyway, this is just a way that you're going to, it's flexible so that if you have a big army, I know I'm not making my sense right now. Anyway, you'll see what units have Gallantry. You could probably guess, if you're familiar with Kingdom of Equitaine, which types of units this is going to apply to, but anyway, it's just a different way. It's only a small subtype of the units in the book have Gallantry. They just don't want you to be able to have a ton of Gallantry because it could be overwhelming for some players. Alright, there you go. I kind of like it, aside from the percentages. I like it because it's a way of, it's kind of a flexible way of list creation, and that it's very scalable, because this way, when it's per army points like that, you can, you'll know how many Gallantry points you could have in a 3,000 point list or a 6,000 point list. And I don't know, let me know what you think of that. I know I'm being really vague right now, so anyway, I'm just going through what the universal rules are, but I think they're going to be going in this direction more, but that's not a promise. It's just what I think as a human being. I think a lot more of the future LABs are going to go in this direction, because I think it actually adds some flexibility to the book designers. And here's another universal rule. This is new for Kingdom of Equitaine. Fey Spirit. The model gains fearless and magical attacks. So there's going to be some new units with a universal rule called Fey Spirit. This actually reads, I'm a Sylvan Elf player most of the time, though I dabble in some Kingdom of Equitaine. This actually reads pretty similar to Forest Spirit. Okay, Fey Spirit and Forest Spirit both have fearless and magical attacks. Models with Fey Spirit can only join or be joined by damsels or models with Fey Spirit, which is almost identical to the way Forest Spirits work in the Sylvan Elf book, and that only models with Forest Spirit special role can join units with Forest Spirit, basically. So that's a way of preventing elves from joining dryads and vice versa. Okay, so that's what Fey Spirits are. Pretty simple. Then we have attack attributes. We have the famed lance formation, close combat. So this is only for close combat. The model gains fighting extra rank, and its maximum number of supporting attacks is increased by 1. Alright, let's stop there. So, model gains fighting extra rank. So that means all the time, when the model has the lance formation special role, you fight an extra rank. So you're always going to fight in 3 ranks. And then if the model has more than 1 attack, then when you're fighting in the 2nd or 3rd rank, you can attack with 2 attacks. Okay, now let's move on. If more than half of a unit's models have lance formation and the unit is 3 or 4 models wide, counts as being in line formation and only needs to be 3 models wide in order to form a full rank. So this is the second part. Okay, so you consider to be in line formation if you're only 3 or 4 models wide. So let's say you have a unit of 12 knights and you're 3 wide and 4 deep. You're gonna fight 3 ranks. You're gonna fight 1st rank normal, 2nd rank normal, supporting attacks. Then because of lance formation, because you have this special rule, you're gonna fight in a 3rd rank because you're always gonna fight in an extra rank. And then because you're 3 or 4 miles wide, you count as being line formation, and line formation also grants fight in extra rank. So you're actually gonna have 2 instances of fight in extra rank. So you're gonna fight in all 4 ranks. You're gonna fight with all 12. All 12 are gonna fight with up to 2 attacks each. I don't remember if there's some knights that have more than 2 attacks, but so that's pretty beefy. And then you only need to be 3 models wide in order to form full rank. Now, because you're in line formation, you're never going to add your ranks to your combat score. You're still going to need to be 5 wide to add ranks to your combat bonus, but you get so many more attacks. This way, I don't know why that would be an issue. So, because why would you want +2 to your combat res when you could have an extra 6 attacks? Or whatever it is. You could have an extra like 9 attacks. Okay. So that's what the new lance formation is. Alright, and then we're on to Army Model Rules Armory. We have the Bastard Sword, close combat weapon. It counts as a hand weapon. Now this is important because with this version of Bastard Sword, as it counting as a hand weapon, you're going to have parry. Before, it didn't have parry, it didn't count as a hand weapon. So that's interesting. Also, you can note that you'll be able to enchant it like with magical weapon enchantments that for hand weapons as well. Alright, attacks made with a Bastard Sword gain +1 strength. So that's the base version of Bastard Sword. Now, as a disclaimer, in the first round of combat, a Bastard Sword may instead be used as a spear if the wielder is infantry, or as a light lance if the wielder is not infantry. All rank and file models in the unit must use the weapon in the same way. So this means that in the first round of combat, you can instead, if someone's charging you maybe you don't want to have parry and +1 strength. Maybe instead you want to use it as a spear so you get that extra agility and extra AP, but then you lose your +1 strength. Or if you are cavalry, you're mounted, maybe you're charging, you want to use it as a light lance because a light lance is going to give you +1 strength and +1 AP anyway. So you want that extra +1 AP because the regular attacks don't come with the +1 AP. They just come with +1 strength. So there you have it. That's what the Bastard Sword is. Right, and here is the hereditary spell. So we have, it's called Breath of the Lady. It's a 7+ to cast, which is decently low. That's good. Range is caster. So it goes on the caster. It's instant, and it adds 2 Orison tokens to your Orison token pool. This is what I was mentioning earlier when we went through Orison tokens. There's the ability to then generate new tokens. So you might start with 3. Then in your first magic phase, you could theoretically, if you get this spell off, you could add in another 2. So you could already have 5 by the end of game turn 1 if you didn't use any tokens that turn. But then remember, you can't have more than 6. So at that point, you'd want to start spending them before you get to your next magic phase, because otherwise, when you cast a spell in the second magic phase, it says add 2. Well, if you didn't spend any, then you'd only add 1 because you can't go over 6. So anyway, that wraps up the beginning part of the book, just the overview of the Kingdom of Equitaine. Hope that you enjoyed this. Please check out the other videos from my peers on the rest of the Kingdom of Equitaine book. Let us know what you think. I'm excited to dive into this. I did look at the rest of the book already, and it's going to be fun to learn how to play this new iteration of this army. And I look forward to seeing what the rest of you come up with for your lists and your models and your miniatures. So here we go. Thank you so much for watching this. If you are not a follower, I'd love it if you liked it and you subscribe. If not, that's fine. You do you. For the lady, let's roll.